What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another edition of the Smark Moments Smack Talk podcast. Today, we are going to do our main event for episode number 332, which is going to be a backtrack and a look at what happened through the Smark Madness tournament for 2018. And I will explain all of what the hell that means in a minute. But before we get into it, let me introduce who's going to be talking for this. I'm, of course, your host, as always, Tony Mango. And joining me, as always, we've got Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
And Callum Wiggins.
Yo.
So, let's explain what the hell's going on here. For those who don't know, March Madness is a thing. It is basketball, it is a tournament, and I love puns. So last year, I decided, fuck it, Smark Madness. I like that. And then I said to myself, oh, god damn it, now that I thought about that, I have to do it. And last year, we did a tournament based off of, I want to make it the type of thing where this is something different. We do the Sexiest Superstars tournament every year, and that's fun, and we're going to do that again this year, but that's just talking about who would you rather bang. So I wanted to make it more of wrestling stuff. Last year we did what are the best finishers of all time in professional wrestling history, and surprisingly, the RKO won. I did not see that coming. I thought Super Kick or Stunner. RKO had beaten the Stunner in the finals for that. This year, I wanted to not do something that was necessarily just moves again or something, and I had pitched a couple ideas. We talked about it in the Megamaniacs, and the one that we ended up going with was, what is the best gimmick match of all time? So, match stipulations, types of matches, that kind of thing. There are far more than 32 of them, and to start things off, I needed to break it down into 32, and the way that I did that was I took into account some people on the Megamaniacs saying some suggestions, and I merged a lot. So, for instance, something as simple as like a regular no disqualification match. Well, WWE calls that a street fight. Sometimes they say it's an Extreme Rules match. Sometimes they give it a special name, like they've had, the Miracle on 34th Street fight. They've had the Belfast Brawl. They've had the Boiler Room Brawl. Like, there's a million different things for that, but it boils down to it's no disqualifications, no holds barred, whatever. You can take, say, the chairs match, and somehow that is a no DQ match where you can only use chairs. It doesn't make any sense. Then there's a kendo stick match where you can use a kendo stick, but it's no DQ, and that's all it is. I've talked ad nauseum about how a TLC match is no different whatsoever from a ladder match. So you're not going to see TLC on this, but you do see ladder match. You don't see a stairs match, but that's just worked into no DQ. Like, that's how it kind of works. Some of them are a little bit more questionable. Some of them make a lot of sense. An evening gown match, for instance, is the same as a tuxedo match. All you're doing is stripping your opponent. So that was all classified as strip your opponent match. So on and so forth. And you'll see throughout this bracket, we're going to be breaking down, the different results of everything that happened for this tournament. Now that it's over, you guys have cast your final votes. I've shut off the polls. We know the winner of everything that it is, the way that it is right now. Before we get into match by match and stuff like that, tournament-wise in general, if I were to ask you what's the best gimmick match of all time, do you think you would have an answer?
I'm not sure because, for me, I have a match that I love that got me into wrestling, so I'd probably immediately say that. But as far as the best match in wrestling for wrestling purposes and rivalries, I'd have a hard time.
It's hard to say because there's been good and bad examples of pretty much every gimmick that you can throw out there. It's not like you can just pinpoint one as saying, this one usually delivers good matches, because there's always at least one that you just would rather forget. But I have a couple that obviously stand out like head and shoulders over some other ones, just because I have fonder memories of certain matches in those cases, and there's certain things like, I'm not exactly going to say, I remember that classic Punjabi prison match that happened, because there's only been three of them.
You mean Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton? That was great. Yeah. Iconic.
it's pretty like a damning indictment on a match stipulation where there've only been 3 matches and the best one featured the Great Khali. So
it's tough for some of these because, yeah, it is hard to tell. How do you justify what's better just based off of the matches? Because you could have something like a Buried Alive match, and you've had a couple of them, but you've got something like a Steel Cage match. You've had 1,000 of them. Do you judge based off of the best? Do you judge based off of the worst? Do you judge based off of the median average? That's what makes it a little bit difficult, but maybe there's some people out there that they voted based off of just the potential behind it. Maybe they voted off of the name behind it. You know, sometimes some of these matches sound ridiculous. It's an odd sort of scenario, but I think generally speaking, people probably voted based off of how the average match usually goes. And that's how I voted at the very least. But one of the things I wanted to do for this tournament, because this opened up the option for it, was to actually have sections of the bracket. And, you know, you've got, like, for Mark Madness and stuff, Smart, so I was calling it Smark again, March Madness, you've got, like, divisions and, you know, Eastern Conference and, like, different things like that. Well, you can't do that with wrestling as much because you can't just go with the territory days, but you can group things that are similar. So what I tried to do, it was impossible to do it to a T, but I tried to make it to where we could try to figure out the best of a certain particular thing before we would get to some other things. So the first quadrant really is essentially cage match. There are a couple that aren't cages, but those were the Inferno match, the Lumberjack match, and I think that's it. Yeah.
It's matches that you're designed to like stay in the ring.
Right.
Yeah, there's still an enclosure of some kind.
That's the good way to put it. Enclosure matches where you've got something that is preventing you from being able to exit the ring, or the objective is to exit the ring. So you've got, for instance, the Punjabi prison and the Elimination Chamber. No surprises here. Elimination Chamber won that one. That was like right off the bat. I was just kind of like, all right, well, we know that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
We had, though, WarGames and Hell in a Cell. I honestly thought Hell in a Cell might win, but WarGames ended up coming out on top.
It's a match that's quite fresh in people's minds, and due to, I think, well, partly due to the fact that the Hell in a Cell match has been watered down due to it being now a pay-per-view, so it has to happen at a certain time, as opposed to being called upon when the feud actually merits it being a Hell in a Cell. It just made it a bit like lost its appeal, and that might change with the WarGames thing, because with rumours circulating that WarGames is going to be happening every November or something for NXT, or maybe we just have a load of WCW fans in Smark at moment or something.
Maybe, you know, I think the idea that it was fresh and that it was good helped out a lot, because Hell in a Cell is watered down, and if this would have been a poll in 1998, Hell in a Cell would have won. Like,
yeah,
I think Hell in a Cell would have won the whole tournament.
Yeah,
But
probably.
no, didn't even make it out of the first round. WarGames beats that, but WarGames loses to Elimination Chamber. And I wasn't too shocked about that one. I thought Elimination Chamber had a good shot at this tournament.
You could argue that it's been watered down like Hell in a Cell, though.
A little bit, yeah. But I think it stood a good chance here and there.
And also, it's slightly different because, like, the way that Tony's always presented Elimination Chamber is the match that you have to go through besides the Royal Rumble if you want to get a shot at WrestleMania. So it's kind of better. Well, not so much better, but it works that it's at a certain time of year every time.
Mm-hmm. It's an easier one to do than, like, a Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
You know, it's... Hell in a Cell is, like, here's a standard cage, but you should have a bitter feud. Elimination Chamber is, let's throw multiple people in with each other. And whenever you have like a multi-team or multi-competitor type of thing, you don't need a feud as much, so it's easier to kind of do. Kind of like the Survivor Series, you know. You can do that every year and it's not going to be lame too much. But if you were to have, say, Last Man Standing match as like a pay-per-view every year, then Last Man Standing would become ridiculous. So it's tough to do that stuff. One thing that we only had one of, I think, maybe two of them, was the Ambrose Asylum. And that got whooped by a steel cage match, just a standard steel cage match. And I'm proud of people for picking that. Because it would seem to me that some people would go with Ambrose Asylum because it's different than a steel cage. But steel cage matches are fucking good for the most part. They're like standard.
Yeah.
I think
like-
it is the gimmick match when you think wrestling gimmick matches.
Pretty
Yes,
much, yeah.
It's the one that's always been called upon to like settle blood feuds, like really in like even the like really old territory days. The cage was the way you would go and settle those things.
For that matter, if somebody says to me gimmick match, I tend to think no DQ, ladder match, steel cage match, tables match, or something along the lines of like a battle royal. Like those are my go-to ones. I never think if somebody goes, all right, name me a gimmick, I'm never like, first blood. Like it just never comes up. Steel cage is one of those 5. It's very standard. More often than not, it's fun. Some of them suck, of course, but they've had hundreds and hundreds of them by now. So of course some of them are going to suck.
I would ask why you decided to include the Ambrose Asylum and not the Kennel from Hell match.
Oh, I totally forgot about Kennel from Hell, actually.
I'm pretty sure most people wish they could as well. So you're not alone with that.
It probably should have been in the tournament, though. Well, you know what? Drop a comment below. If you would have voted for Kennel from Hell as being the winner, let me know, and we'll do a wild card route or something. But the two that weren't cages were the Lumberjack match and the Inferno match. It's still enclosures. One of them's just people and one of them's fire. So it is what it is. I'm glad that the Lumberjack match won, because the Inferno match to me is something that, like, on paper it sounds cool, but watching them back, they are stupid. You've got this, like, ring of fire, and every time somebody slams, the fire just, like, shoots up, and people go, ah! And then the person who gets caught on fire is somebody who's wearing something that they can easily get caught on fire, then extinguished immediately, and it's just kind of like, I don't know.
It's something that always sounds better on paper, because the fire ultimately obstructs your view of the entire thing. The people that are sitting at the front row are not only in a fair amount of danger, but also probably getting ridiculously hot, being right next to flames being sent up. And then it just takes one wrong move and your entire match could literally go up in flames because the wrong person catches fire or something like that. And up until then, it's just a load of people fighting in the middle of the ring or tentatively pushing the other person's arm or leg towards the ropes. And it's just, it just doesn't work.
Do you think that match will disappear now that Kane is slowing down his career?
I can't imagine anybody doing an Inferno match anytime soon.
Yeah, I think the fire's running out on it.
You don't think Becky Lynch is going to have a straight fire match?
She fights with Kane and she says, "That's my gimmick now."
You wear an orange as well.
But Lumberjack match gets beaten by Steel Cage, which again, pretty proud of. Although Steel Cage doesn't make it past Elimination Chamber.
Well, what is one Steel Cage match out of the thousands that you got to watch that match?
I don't know. See, my gut reaction is if somebody says, like, name a cool Steel Cage match, I just think about the Jeff Hardy jumping off the top of it, which isn't a match, it's just a move. But
yeah, that's the one that sticks out in my mind is the Jeff Hardy Umaga one, where he does the Whisper of the Wind from the middle of the thing on the top of the Umaga. It's just like, that's the stuntman move.
And I would be the one guy sitting here going, well, Bret and Owen at SummerSlam in '94 was kind of cool.
That's a great one. That's a great example. Bret and Owen was so fucking good. Like, goddamn.
It's a bit before my time, unfortunately, but I do need to go back and watch that again.
That whole feud was just so great. I miss the old Cage, too.
The blue bars?
In general, the blue bars. The black bars were cool, too, but, like, there's some nostalgia for the blue ones, and I get why they don't do that anymore because it was pretty unforgiving, and there's plenty of, like, better structurally sound ways that they've been doing this over the past bunch of years and stuff like that, so I certainly don't blame them for that, but it was still kind of cool to see them climbing up that old Cage, and I liked that, so I miss that a little bit. But the steel cage itself, I didn't think that it was going to get a whole lot of love here, and I was very, very happy to see that it got up until Elimination Chamber, because you put Elimination Chamber versus steel cage. All right, yeah, I'm going to pick Elimination Chamber. It's kind of hard not to.
Elimination Chamber is like probably out of these, not all of the ones, but like one of the most recent gimmick matches that has really stuck and really done well for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like it only started in like the early 2000s, so it's still a fairly recent innovation. I mean, even if it is 15 years old at this point, compared to a lot of the other ones, they're matches that have been existing almost since the 70s or 80s, well, 90s at the latest, and it's really like one of the last times WWE really struck gold on a gimmick.
Yeah. They've had plenty of little gimmicks over the years, and they've had something like, for instance, the Money in the Bank, where that's a new gimmick, but it's still just a ladder match. Elimination Chamber is a whole separate, they advertise it as a steel cage meets Royal Rumble, and that sounds a little gimmicky where like TNA would try to do it, but it worked. Yeah. And they've tweaked it a little bit here.
Why are there no TNA gimmick matches on here, Tony?
Because there's no fucking way there's going to be those. You imagine King of the Mountain being in there, or that reverse Battle Royal thing, or like, nah.
I mean, the only one that I could see getting into it is probably the Lethal. Well, either Ultimate X or Lethal Lockdown. And Lethal Lockdown will probably fit into this one. But it's pretty much WarGames just with weapons.
And a little bit of Ambrose Asylum mixed in too.
Yeah.
So there's a precedent for some of those things, but typically speaking, in a Smark moment, I act like WWE is the only thing that makes any sense. That's why it's like, best tag teams of all time. If we do that, Young Bucks isn't going to be on the list because it's going to be tag teams from WWE, WCW, ECW, that kind of a thing.
Oh, although do that next year.
It's in the ranking. There's that and best pay-per-view names. Those are the two main ones that I'm thinking. Oh, and best managers. There's the main three.
I'd like that.
So that quadrant was owned by Elimination Chamber. And I'm not too shocked about that. We'll get back to Elimination Chamber in a little bit, but then we had this quadrant that was sort of just random, kind of, you add like some kind of an object to the match, and that's where the theme is. So you get, for instance, a generic no DQ street fight type of thing. That's just anything. That's what I mentioned before, where you can have a Singapore cane, or you could have chairs or stairs, or you could have like a chains match where you can use a chain, or a brass knuckles match. I couldn't just add every single possible weapon and make like, all right, what's better, a steel cage, a steel chair match, or a stairs match? Well, who fucking cares? It's no DQ, that kind of a thing. But also, I needed to sacrifice something to that because I felt, I did a randomization of sorts, but I also kind of wanted to make sure that certain things kept the discussion going. And I knew, for instance, there was no way in hell Blindfold Match was going to get past round one, no matter what it was up against. Thankfully, no DQ did beat that. No surprises there. Blindfold is fucking terrible.
I can't recall a single good Blindfold match.
No.
Nick Roberts, Rick Martel, WrestleMania 7 is the only one that is even kind of like, hey, you can watch this and have a good time. Other than that, no.
So to give you an insight of like how I structured this tournament, when I balanced out this, I had Blindfold and the strap or chain match next to each other. Because in my mind, it was like, well, you're wrapping something around, and that's constrictive. And then I had False Count Anywhere and No DQ together because they're the same thing, except for one of them you have to pin inside the ring, and the other one you don't. But I looked at that and I went, really? Blindfold or strap or chain match is going to move on to the second round, while No DQ or False Count Anywhere isn't? I can't have that happen. So that's why I switched it up, which means that it ended up being pretty obvious. False Count Anywhere versus either the strap or the chain match. False Count Anywhere was going to move on. So that way we could get our No DQ versus False Count Anywhere. But it would be in the second round. I think that's manipulative, but it makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Is there any real strap or chain type match that you would go, wow, I need to go watch that?
No.
There's two that stick out to me. Not to say they're necessarily good, but they were memorable. One is the Stone Cold Savio Vega match.
The Caribbean strap match.
Yes.
Yeah, because that was kind of like the first time. Well, it's the first time I'd ever go back and watch a Savio Vega match. But it's like it's the first time that Stone Cold was really getting some sort of measure as actual Stone Cold character.
It's also the only time you go back and watch a Savio Vega match.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one would be the Eddie Guerrero JBL one from Great American Bash, because that was the start of one of the worst WWE Championship reigns in history. So,
see, I'm gonna stick with you on the Savio Vega Stone Cold, but I'm gonna go ahead and say Triple H and Kane Judgment Day 01 in a chain match sticks out to me.
So we would go strap or chain over blindfold, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, even though strap and chain still have their problems, they're still not blindfold. Blindfold, I think, is the worst out of all of these.
Yeah, I'd prefer a match where like the opponents could actually see each other and do things.
Yeah, even Cena and Rusev had a pretty good chain match a couple of years ago.
Well, those moved on to where it was either a standard no DQ match or a false count anywhere. And in my mind, this should have been a no contest. This should have been false count anywhere 100%. But I know that it's a little bit harder for some people. Some people actually prefer that more. And we'll get into some stuff later on about like statistics and stuff, but is that just my own bias, or do you guys kind of see the same point of view? If you're given a match where they're exactly the same fundamentally, except for the one difference is there's a little bit more flexibility, to me it's like, no shit, false count anywhere is better. Or do you like it where you have to get pinned in the ring?
I'm going on the context of if I'm watching a feud on TV, I'd prefer the pinfalls to be inside the ring. The false count anywhere just comes across like a Hardcore Holly beating Al Snow in the lake at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. You know, you get a lot of hokey stuff with a false count anywhere.
I mean, I would kind of take the opposite point of view, really, of the something like, if I was in the crowd, of course I'd like to see the match end in the ring, but because otherwise I'm watching the screen when the finish happens.
Yeah, that's true.
But if it's on TV, then I don't really mind, because technically, like any Hardy Ultimate Deletion match, the falls count anywhere match, because the pinfall has to take place on the ground somewhere. So I think it's fine as long as you have like the right people, like keeping track of all the action and stuff. And it has led to like some memorable moments, like the Hardcore title 24/7 rule was like a big part of that came to the falls count anywhere nature of the Hardcore matches.
That was so fun. It was so dumb, but it was so fun.
Like, we would never have gotten Crash Holly fighting the Headbangers in
the bounce house.
Yeah. Without that stipulation. So, and I can't live in a world where that wouldn't happen. So,
well, we also had, for instance, climb up something was the theme for this one, which was either ladder match on one end or, and this is where I had a combo where I thought to myself, maybe this is stretching it, but maybe not. Flag match or blank on a pole.
Really, this
was the very last thing that I combined as far as trying to make to the 32. And my justification behind it was normal flag matches are you climb up the turnbuckle and you take a flag down. Sometimes they've had before where you put a flag up. For some reason, they had that one flag match with John Cena and Rusev where you put the flag on the little banister thing. Banister, that's not the fucking name for it.
The pole?
The little
holder.
Thing. Yeah, the holder thing. I don't know, banister. What the hell am I thinking banister for? Yeah, the railing. You put it on the railing.
Yeah.
And we've also had that really, really dumb match between Rusev and Jack Swagger where it was a flag match, but it was just a regular match where at the end of it, whoever won could wave their flag. The stupidest idea that I've ever heard as far as a gimmick.
Yeah, Rusev's had some really bad luck with flag matches.
He really has. And it's not even just like that the matches were bad. He's had bad luck as far as just booking the match.
Yeah.
On a pole matches are slightly different because you've got like contract on a pole, or sometimes that's the end of the match is if you get the thing off the pole. Sometimes it's like a weapon and it's like we have like a Singapore cane or whatever is on a pole, and if you reach up and get it, then you can use it. but that's still kind of weird because it's sort of like the other person could just pick it up afterward too. It's sort of just you climb up the turnbuckle and you either bring something down or put something up. And I figured
the worst
they're
matches
basically
are coming to mind here. Just the worst matches.
like Alexa Bliss
Viagra on
and
a pole.
Bailey.
Not even that. I'm thinking like really like Trish Stratus versus Stacy Keibler in a paddle on a pole match, and the winner gets to spank their opponent. Like I'm just thinking of the worst possible case scenarios.
The Divas division suffered a lot with these objects on a pole matches.
And I'm thinking, well, then there's Rock and Mankind in a pink slip on a pole match. Like, what was going on in the early 2000s?
Yeah, essentially, pretty much all of WCW from like 99 to 2001, this match type was featuring quite often. It's a very Vince Russo thing to do. That's why it's happened a lot. And TNA with the Feast or Fire briefcase match is pretty much an extended object on a pole match.
Also, there's the classic Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. That is a real thing.
And then there's wasn't the thing with Black Rain and TNA about the rat? Wasn't that on a pole?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
That was rat in a cage on a pole match or something like that.
Or you have the San Francisco 49ers match, which is when it was Jeff Jarrett versus Booker T for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then you had 4 different boxes. One of them contained the World Heavyweight Championship. And in the other ones, you had things like a blow-up doll or a picture of Scott Hall or something like that. And then for the finish of it, you have Booker T grabs the thing, but the title falls out of the bottom of the box, so the announcer has to pick it up and hand it to Booker T. So technically, the announcer was the World Heavyweight Champion, but they didn't decide to do that.
And it's facing ladder match, which was just kind of like, when I built this bracket, I was just like, oh, right, okay, well, clearly I can just type out ladder match wins.
You have extreme bias here, Tony. How many ringers do we have in these early contests?
You have to get rid of the weak early on.
There's only one ring in all these tournaments. I don't have the in this tournament bracket. There's no World War III.
Oh.
God damn it.
There's WarGames though. That's 2 rings.
Oh, that's true. All right, never mind. There goes that joke. Yeah, so this was an obvious like ladder match. Clearly going to beat the shit out of that, and
the worst ladder match is better than the best objects on a pole.
Right. But that settles it. It's better to have somebody climb up a ladder and retrieve a title or a briefcase than it is to have somebody climb up the turnbuckle and get a blow-up doll or something. I liked the theme idea of this tournament quite a bit. And there was no theme at all to this next one. It was just the 2 that couldn't go anywhere else. Tables match or strip your opponent match. You put them through the table or you rip their clothes off. Yeah, there's no connection. But they are, as far as the theme went for that quadrant, an item-based thing because it revolves around a table or it revolves around clothing. You've got your evening gown, you've got your bra and panties match, you've got your tuxedo match. It's just rip the clothes off. That's the whole thing. And this was another pretty obvious one.
Strip an opponent match.
Any other ones with the women? I don't remember.
It's
certainly not going to be the fucking Ricardo one.
Against Santino or something.
Yeah, it's going to be like some Sable match or something.
Yeah, something that involves Sable or Tori Wilson or Stacy Keibler or something like that.
So nobody's going to go Patterson versus Briscoe here?
Nope.
Oh god, the drag queen one.
No, not going to go with that one.
I think I'll leave it. I'm not going for Christy Hemme versus the big oily naked guy as well.
So a table match.
Table matches, I don't know if I have a love-hate relationship with them, because the table break is one of the greatest, like one of the cool spots that you can do basically in any match. I always appreciate it, like a good crash through the table. But when you actually just make the whole match revolve around putting somebody through the table, it's just a load of people stalling in just holding them up slightly, like feigning to do a suplex through it or something like that, or going up for the superplex and falling off when the table's set up or something along those lines. It's a very clunky match.
I think they've done a good job in recent years about showing you how silly it can actually be, like with the Big Show Cody Rhodes thing, or like, hey, John Cena lost the title to Sheamus because he just sort of fell, you know? But then you have really good tables matches like Hardy's and the Dudleys at the Royal Rumble in 2000.
That was the first one, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of all downhill from there.
When somebody says tables match to me, two things pop up in my mind. Number one is just Dudley Boys, because come on, like their whole fucking career has been based off of get the tables. And the other thing is one of those dark moments, Sheamus beating John Cena. I consider it a dark moment. A lot of people really liked it. To me, Sheamus was nowhere near ready for that title at that time. And I remember, I mean, that was one of the first things I wrote up on Smark Out Moment was bitching and complaining about how Sheamus won the title too early. And
hey, as soon as he started working out with Triple H, he was ready for the World Championship.
That's what it was like. So that tainted the tables match to me for a little bit, because it was like, really, you don't want to give you want to give the title to Sheamus, but you also want to keep John Cena looking strong, so you put him in a random tables match so that way he can just fall backward, and that's a hindrance to that. Whereas the ladder match, to me, I think that's fundamentally one of the best gimmicks, because you can have somebody lose, but they don't look bad. And that's just because somebody managed to climb up. And we have great action during those. We've got table spots that happen during those. Like, look at the TLC matches that we get. Those almost always have some kind of a table spot with the ladder match element. So it's almost like the best of both worlds, sort of, because there's nothing in a ladder match that says you can't go through the table. And a lot of people go through tables. But there is something in a tables match that says, what the hell are you climbing a ladder for? There's nothing to grab at the top. You're not grabbing a table from the ceiling.
Also, one of the big drawbacks of a tables match is, and I've seen it more commonly in like a few recent years, some tables just won't break.
Oh yeah, that's even more awkward when that happens. Or if it breaks when it's not necessarily supposed to.
Whereas if a ladder like either breaks or bits of it snap, you can just go get another ladder.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just slam someone and the table just doesn't go, then the crowd just completely shits all over the situation, and then you're just like, oh, I guess I'll just climb up the top rope and splash you through it or something like that.
I did laugh a lot, though, when Big Show lost that tables match just because he stepped on it. I thought that was really funny. Did they ever set some kind of a rule for whether or not the commentary tables count?
I've
I
never
know they
heard
count
anything like
the
that.
video games. That's all I know.
I don't remember a tables match ending with somebody going through a commentary table.
No, I don't recall that either.
Well, because I think they kind of set the ground rules in the back, like, okay, you're working towards the wooden table spot, don't go near the commentary table.
Yeah. It'd be kind of interesting to see if that would happen, though. Like, if somebody were to be on the outside and they're getting ready to powerbomb somebody through a standard table, and the person just backdrops them and they go over in the commentary table and they're like, oh, that's a table, you win. Like, that'd be kind of cool. I like that. Either way, though, ladder match beats it.
Yeah, definitely.
Ladder match was a juggernaut in this. Ladder match also beat False Count Anywhere in round 3. So ladder match was just boom right into the semifinals. And I'll mention statistics as far as later on, but that led to the left half of the tournament ended up being Elimination Chamber versus ladder match. I'm going to hold off on that discussion. Let's go to the right side. We had the top right quadrant was, I guess the best way to describe it is do something with your opponent is the objective. Like an objective match. So we had, for instance, I paired up, I was like, well, I have to put these two together. Casket match and buried alive match. You have to either put your opponent in a casket and shut the door, or you have to throw a bunch of dirt on them.
And their team match is synonymous with The Undertaker as well. So.
Right. I am shocked that Buried Alive won that. I thought casket matches are significantly better.
I think as a concept, Buried Alive is better, but I think that casket matches over the years have proven to be more fun.
Yeah, I think you have a bit more freedom with the casket match as well. I think the buried alive thing is there's so much like waiting around when you're trying to shovel the dirt over the person at the end of it and stuff like that. It's just a little bit too awkward.
Mm-hmm. And you know that the person's not going to be like buried alive, and you know that it makes only any kind of sense when it's somebody like Kane or The Undertaker. So you can't have, I mean, you're not going to do a casket match between like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, but it would make at least a little bit more sense for those two to have a casket match than a buried alive match. Buried alive is like, it's a little bit too dark sometimes. Only like a Bray Wyatt type could do it.
They
Yeah.
didn't.
We're randomly going to get a casket match though between Rusev and Undertaker. That's fucking happening. Sure, because those two are feuding and make the obvious joke about that they want to bury Rusev.
Yeah, Jonathan did that.
It's just, I don't know what's happening there, but also
But
pairing up.
You grew up in the New Generation era, so
Yeah.
what is your favorite casket or buried alive match?
Undertaker versus Yokozuna. That's my go-to.
The one where they bury him, or the one where Chuck Norris comes?
The extra wide casket for Yokozuna where they take out the Undertaker and they have like every heel on the roster take him out. That's immediately what I think of with casket matches. And buried
That's good.
alive, I never really think of anything. I mean, I just kind of imagine like Stone Cold, Undertaker, Kane, everybody's standing around, like that kind of thing. It's kind of
I
strange.
think, yeah, the buried alive match stands in my mind. I mean, obviously, I know the last one was the Kane versus Undertaker one when Nexus got involved, but the one that sticks out in my mind is the Vince McMahon versus Undertaker one from Survivor Series. In terms of casket matches, this sounds like a really random one, but it's the only one that I can really remember because I remember watching this pay-per-view a lot. It's Undertaker versus Heidenreich from the Royal Rumble 2004. And that's only because like that was the Royal Rumble that Chris Benoit won, so it's quite a famous Rumble anyway, and that's just a match you have to sit through to get through to the actual.
It was actually 2005 where Batista won, so I don't know what you were watching for.
Oh yeah, it was that one. That's still a pretty famous Rumble anyway.
For me, real quick, casket match: Undertaker and Kama at SummerSlam.
Oh yeah.
And buried alive, Undertaker Mankind. First one, absolutely crazy.
Does anybody remember offhand the match that it was the casket match where they actually had to nail it down?
That was Kamala.
It was Kamala in '92.
That was the Kamala one? Okay.
I think that was the first casket match.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. I was just like, I know it was an older one, and I couldn't remember if it was.
It was the first one they did on pay-per-view because they'd done one at house shows with Taker and Warrior. But
wasn't that a body bag match?
No, they did either or. They've done both with Taker and Warrior.
I forgot about adding body bag to the. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? Yeah.
All right, if you would have voted for body bag or Kennel from Hell, let me know.
We should put those two against each other in a special one.
Put the dogs in the casket.
We also had the stretcher match and the ambulance match, and this is again, it's the objective is to do something with the lifeless body of your opponent. The stretcher match, you have to put them on the stretcher and then push them over the line, which is very strange. And the ambulance, they have to go into an ambulance. Sometimes that's awkward as hell, and
both of them can be.
I hate that I voted for it, but I voted for the stretcher match, I think, because at least to me, it seems a little bit like both of these just are stupid.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, I guess it's a little bit more fun to see somebody push a stretcher than to see somebody accidentally walk into an ambulance or something. Like, it's just weird. We had a good thing with Strowman, though. I like that.
Yeah. And the ambulance match also bears a lot of similarities to I think it was only used one time. Maybe
Last
twice.
Ride.
Yeah, the Last Ride match.
It was
The
used
Undertaker's
twice.
house. Oh.
It was Kennedy and it was JBL. And they both sucked.
I actually quite like the Kennedy one. But in terms of stretcher match, in terms of WWE, there's only one stretcher match that I think was any good, which was the Brock Lesnar Big Show one.
Big Show, yeah.
That was an awesome match. I thought that was really good. But I'd go with the ambulance one just because I think just having to push the person like through, as opposed to like you can just like lift them up into the ambulance and that's about it. I think there's just too much to do in the stretcher match where it's just you pushing a dead body essentially across the line.
Well, let's be honest. The two best things that have ever happened with a stretcher are Mick Foley getting off of the stretcher in Hell in a Cell, and Big Show smacking Rey Mysterio around.
Yeah.
And the best thing that ever happened with an ambulance is Big Braun Strowman pushing one over.
I was going to give the nod to the ambulance because when I think stretcher, I immediately think the one with RVD and Randy Orton, where Orton's dragging Van Damme's lifeless body, but Van Damme gets up and puts Orton on the stretcher for just 2 seconds, just to kind of push him right at the yellow line, which was right there anyway. And then I thought, no, well, hokey things like that don't usually happen with ambulances. And then I remembered Roman Reigns charging at Braun, and Braun just sidesteps. It's like, okay, bitch, in the ambulance.
Yeah, well, people voted for ambulance match. And then that ended up being an ambulance match against Buried Alive, which I was assuming it would be Casket Match versus whatever, then Casket would move on. But Buried Alive beats ambulance match. Thankfully, gets knocked out the next round by something on the other section. But the latter half of that quadrant, we've got the objectives being, for instance, I Quit match and submission match. They're clearly the same. Who fucking cares? There's no difference. Your opponent submits, the end of it. And I put that up with the last man standing because in my mind, the last man standing is still kind of submitting. You're not getting up to the 10 count. And I thought this could have gone either way. This was really a 50-50 shot.
These are two of my favorite gimmick matches of all time, and I usually put them in the same vein because the objectives are so similar. I'm going to give the edge, just based on history, to Last Man Standing.
I think if you look back in history, I think they're very similar, and I think if you were to judge both of them, they've had some memorable moments on each of them. I would go, if it was my choice, I'd go with the I Quit submission match because, in a lot of people's eyes, the I Quit, the greatest match in WWE history is an I Quit match, the Bret Hart versus Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13. It's technically pretty much an I Quit match, and then you have you have dark moments in that match like the Mick Foley Rock match.
I love that. It was brutal as all hell, but I loved it.
Yeah,
what about JBL John Cena? I know you're probably a fan of that.
I thought the match was actually pretty good.
It is pretty good. I don't like the ending though, with the people get scared, like, oh no, I quit, I'm sorry.
The Last Man Standing one, I think the big drawback with the Last Man Standing is the 10 count.
Oh god, that's exactly the reason why I ended up going with, I voted I Quit. Last Man Standing ended up winning, but I voted I Quit because that 10 count is fucking brutal sometimes.
I think there's a lot more. I'd say both of them can be open to like a lot of chicanery, like they did with the Mankind match, was like taking a recording of him saying I quit to give him the win. They tried to do that in the John Cena Miz one as well. That thing where you take a recording of them saying I quit and try and use that to get the win. But in the Last Man Standing one, you had things like people tying someone's legs to the ring post or something like that to keep them down instead.
Basically, gimmick matches after the John Cena at his peak turned into very Looney Tunes style finishes.
Well, if we're talking Looney Tunes, look at the First Blood match. That's something that
can't do nowadays.
No, we're never going to get another First Blood match. Literally ever. It's just not going to be a thing. At least in WWE. We're going to get them, in indie shows and stuff like that, but never going to happen in WWE because it's actually like banned to do that. And I didn't really have anything to pair that up with, but we did have the Iron Man match, and fuck it,
Iron
why
Man
not?
won, obviously.
It was one of those things where it was like, First Blood's not going to win against the Iron Man match, but hey, what am I going to put it up against? Iron Man match is clearly better.
Yeah. Okay, quick. What's the best Iron Man match?
Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart.
You're so incorrect with that.
Yeah, you're very incorrect with that. I love both of those guys. I can't make it through that match. It's very boring. Best Iron Man match that I've ever seen. I gotta go with Brock and Angle.
Yeah, that's the one that I go to as well.
I
They're
hate
close.
the 30-minute Iron Man matches.
I do
Yeah,
too.
they're too short. Yeah, you need to go 60.
The whole point's supposed to be Iron Man, and 30 minutes is like, well, the average big pay-per-view type of match is like 20 minutes long. Yeah, there's an extra 10 minutes to it. Who cares? Like, Bailey and Sasha, it was something where it was like, the Iron Man gimmick makes sense, but I would have wanted it to be the hour. And sometimes that sucks, like sometimes it can be a little bit boring and stuff, but I also kind of like it sometimes when we get like somebody has, say, a score of like 8-9 or something like that, instead of, all right, we're gonna go like it's 58 minutes and it's 1-0, because the point's supposed to be like racking up points and stuff, and I kind of like it when it's sort of like, oh, they got a quick pin and that's another one for them and that kind of thing.
And yet you like the Michaels Bret Hart match, which was 0-0 until they.
It set the standard, kind of.
And
that was literally the WrestleMania 12 is like the earliest memory I have of wrestling. Like, I know that I watched it beforehand because there's a picture of me somewhere of that I was Hulk Hogan when I was in fifth grade, when I was 5 years old. So that was before 1996, and I only like Shawn Michaels winning the title is one of like the actual like memories that I have. So that's the reason why that's the 1, 2, 3 count at the end of Smack Talk episodes, is because it's from that match.
Yeah. And Robert, to answer your question, I think the last people that went 60 minutes in an Iron Man match was Randy Orton and John Cena.
I think
that was Falls Count Anywhere too, right? That one was pretty fun.
I don't remember it all that much, to be honest.
I remember Randy trying to kill him with the pyro.
Well, thankfully, Iron Man match beat out Buried Alive.
Yeah.
That was one of those things where I was just like, if Buried Alive beat Casket, and then it beat Ambulance, which, that's no surprise. But I was like, if it beats both Casket and Iron Man, and this ends up going into like the semifinals, I'm going to be like, what the fuck? And our final quadrant was multi-man matches. This one was something that I didn't need to like explain too crazily. Starting it off, it was anything that's triple threat or higher. So you got triple threat match, a fatal 4-way match, fatal 5-way, 6-pack challenge. All it is you have more than 2 people and it's no DQ. Technically speaking, I could have incorporated that into a regular no DQ, but it's not quite the same because you do have that extra added element of like the champion doesn't need to be pinned and some different things like that. So in my mind, it was justified to split it up. I don't know. People agree or disagree. Maybe they really wanted the body bag match to be in there instead or something, or Kettle from Hell. In my mind, it makes sense. And I figured, you know what, that is pretty standard and we should just pair that up with a regular tag team match or a handicap match. And there was no, like, nobody was going to vote for, like, I really like handicap matches more. That's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a mark for tag team wrestling. I think at its best, I think a tag team match can be infinitely better than any singles match. So I ended up voting for the tag team one. I hate handicap matches. I don't think they work, especially because if it's a baby face that's meant to be beating up 2 heels, it makes the heels look terrible. And if it's a big baby face, it makes them look like they can't win or they can't lose. It's just a really awkward situation. But I've always, like, my favourite matches of the past few years have mainly been tag team matches, so I just go along that lines. But I can understand why the triple threat and above matches won.
I think I fell for Tony's trap here. I prefer tag wrestling, but I didn't really want to see the handicap match advance, so I voted for triple threat.
On my mind, it was kind of like, all right, I don't have any room, and the only difference between a handicap match and a tag team match is one person's missing a tag team member, but it's still just 2 people versus what's supposed to be a team, kind of, and all that. But
It's
in
still 2
retrospect,
teams, technically.
yeah, kind of. in retrospect, I figured out something with this tournament based off of the handicap match one, where I said to myself, you know what would have made a lot more sense, and I'll probably try to do this in the future if I can, is to have a qualifying round that I didn't have before, where I would take and say, like, all right, these things are very, very similar. We need to figure out what gets into the tournament. So it would be like, for instance, triple threat versus fatal 4-way versus fatal 5-way versus 6-pack challenge. And then I would say, you have to pick one. And then I would put handicap match versus tag team match. You have to pick one. And then it wouldn't be like the bracket wouldn't say tag team or handicap versus 3, 4, 5, 6, that kind of a thing. It would just be, look, they didn't win. So they didn't even get past that point. This is a thing taking their spot. And, like the evening gown versus tuxedo versus whatever. Like, I'll probably try to do something like that in the future. But I don't think it really mattered. I think that pretty much people were going to vote the same way.
Yeah, pretty much.
Same thing when it comes to a Tornado tag team match and Battle Royal. I assumed that was a pretty obvious one because Battle Royal was merged with Royal Rumble. And if I were to have done Battle Royal versus Royal Rumble for the qualifier, people would have gone with Royal Rumble. So it's still just a bunch of people in the ring, you throw them over the top rope. And that's a lot better than a tornado tag.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear among a lot of people that the Royal Rumble is one of the greatest gimmicks that have ever been put together. So, and it's.
I wonder if people would have voted for the Battle Royal though if you would have taken it away from the Royal Rumble.
Like maybe have that 2 separate quadrants.
Like if it was Battle Royal versus Tornado Tag, I wonder what people would have voted for.
I'm a little bit curious that if it would have been like, if we had room and time to do everything separate, and we would have had, say, like the evening gown and the tuxedo and whatever, and then it's like, that's a whole like 5 or 6 examples, and they all boil down to just like, all right, evening gown is the one that wins or something. Well, bra and panties would have won, let's be honest. If I would have had like Battle Royal versus Royal Rumble on separate ends, I wonder if the finals would have been Battle Royal versus Royal Rumble,
I think Battle Royal would have gotten squashed if the Royal Rumble was its own entity.
I'm pretty sure it would have, but that would if they would have been on opposite ends, like Battle Royals on the left side, Royal Rumbles on the right side, if it would have been like both win both sections, kind of like, that's kind of an interesting thing that I didn't think about ahead of time, but it is what it is. Battle Royal / Royal Rumble, Battle Royal Rumble, I should just call it, beats out the standard triple threat and stuff, moves to round 3. We'll talk about what that goes up against next. We had a time-based one. You have to beat your opponents in a certain amount of time. That was the Beat the Clock challenge versus the Scramble match. And this one was another one that I kind of saw as like, well, it could go either way. Beat the Clock challenge wins. Not opposed to it.
That was kind of shocking to me, really.
I honestly think it's because people have forgotten what a scramble match is and what it looks like and how it's done.
It might just be because it's a little bit like hard to follow.
A little bit, but like the issue I've always had with Beat the Clock challenge is the idea is to win matches as quickly as possible. Surely that should be the objective of every match. It's the idea of like, surely you want to beat your opponent in 3 minutes every single match you face, but yet you're only doing it fast because you're being timed this time.
Yeah, the only extra added element to it is when you get to the point where the time limit's up.
Yeah, it's just along the lines of like, so many matches end with just a draw, and then you also have matches between like 2 top stars, like 2 people, because it's usually like people that are fighting for a championship opportunity. It's usually 2 big stars, and then one of them's beating the other one in about 5 minutes. It's like, well, maybe one day we want to see a pay-per-view match between you 2, and you go 20 minutes. Well, why didn't you just have the 5-minute match that you had last time?
Yeah, that's true.
I know it's like wrestling, and so you should extend your disbelief a little bit more and stuff like that. So, but it's just like, if you're looking for that like little element of realism, I think a Beat the Clock just takes that out of it completely. But the scramble match always had its issue with the fact that like you start with 2 people, and it's always been for like a major championship, like a world championship. And then you add people towards the end. It's like, well, I don't know whether it's the people that start the match that are at the disadvantage because they've been in there the longest, or it's the person that comes in at the end who only has 5 minutes to try and pin somebody. So,
And it's that whole idea of like you're the interim champion, but you're not. But you're the champion. But if somebody else gets pinned, then they like it's really just too confusing.
Hey,
and
Tony, Brian Kendrick will always be a WWE champion.
I was gonna say that. Damn it, Brian Kendrick did it.
The final matchup was the gauntlet match or the tag team turmoil. Really, tag team turmoil is just a gauntlet with tag teams, so there's no difference between those. Against the traditional Survivor Series based elimination tag team match, where you have however many people, it's a tag team, and people actually get eliminated one by one, as opposed to one pinfall or submission ends the whole match. And I thought that this was another one where I was just like, all right, elimination tag's going to win. Just better match. But it could have potentially gone up against the Battle Royal thing, because it is still like, you know, people coming out and doing that kind of thing, gauntlet type style.
I think the reason that Gauntlet won here is because
Gauntlet
the
lost.
Raw Gauntlet.
Gauntlet lost.
Gauntlet lost?
Mhm.
Yeah. 8% to 20%.
Oh. Yeah, that sounds about right, because the Survivor Series match is a lot better. I guess I read that the other way. Yeah, Survivor Series match is way better. I'm glad that won. Survivor Series is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think that.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, it's one of the issues I had. Again, it's similar to the beat the clock thing with the gauntlet match. Is the fact that you're seeing teams beat other ones quite ridiculously quickly. And if you have a situation of like one team beating 3 teams in a row, then the 3 teams they've beaten don't really mean shit because they just lost a match against like somebody that already had 1 or 2 matches.
Well, elimination tag beat the clock. I guess it's just like Survivor Series is cooler, that kind of thing. But elimination tag loses out to Battle Royal. And I'm not opposed to that, you know. I thought that was okay. Yeah. So that set the semifinals, where Elimination Chamber versus Ladder Match and the Iron Man match versus the Battle Royal Rumble. Pretty good foursome, I think.
Yeah, it's like 4 real standard bearers, I think.
Is there any that you guys think you would have replaced with something else if the seeding would have gone differently?
Standard cage inside of the
over the elimination.
If I was choosing, a steel cage would have been there. Yeah, over the chamber.
I've always, I mean, probably more because I've been watching more recently in like more recent years. I've always thought the elimination chamber's delivered more than the steel cage match. But I understand more the legacy surrounding steel cage. So if you're going more by a legacy or historical standard, steel cage probably should be in there. But all the rest of them, I think they fit their categories like well. So if you're going by, they all stand out to me as like either one of or the best in their particular field.
Wait.
So to give everybody insight, these were the 4 that I built the 4 quadrants around.
Well,
it worked.
Yeah. Good job, Tony.
These were the 4 that when I started off, I wrote down the list of all the matches when I still had over 32. And I said, all right, well, these 4 are juggernauts and they're all different enough from each other, except for the Elimination Chamber and the Battle Royal type of concept. And I was just like, you know what? If I'm going to make 4 quadrants, I'm going to go cage things. I'm going to go objective. I'm going to go weapon, and I'm going to go like multi-people. So then when it started to work out that way, I was just kind of like, oh, look at that. You know? And I don't know if I would say that these are my 4 favorite, but they're certainly in the discussion for that. If not, my 4 favorite too. So I was kind of happy about that. And then it became, you've got the Elimination Chamber versus the Ladder Match. And that one I was like, you know what? This could go either way. And I'd be perfectly fine with it. If Elimination Chamber would have won, wouldn't have heard any complaints from me. The Ladder Match ended up winning that one.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. I'm a huge mark for the ladder match, just a standard ladder match, not the like, hey, let's add tables and chairs to it.
Hmm.
I love just the one-on-one ladder match.
Same here. I voted for ladder match over Elimination Chamber
Yeah.
because to me, there's something so fun. It seems so stupid, but something really fun about watching people starting the climb up and everybody goes, oh my God, they're going to win. Oh my God. And then somebody comes and tosses them off or something like that. And they're like, ah, fuck. Like that 6-man ladder match at NXT TakeOver was so fucking good. And if that
Yeah.
would have just been the 6 people fighting each other and like going for pinfalls, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as fun, you know?
The
Yeah.
good thing about a ladder match as well is that you can make subtle variations to it based on the people involved. Like if you do have a standard singles match, you can have like a bit of like a spot fest with the ladders, but you can also have a technical ladder match or technical like wrestling match where ladders get involved every now and again. Like so,
Benoit and Jericho.
Yeah, the Benoit Jericho one sticks out in that regard. But then you also have the multi-man variations as well. You have tag team ladder matches. Obviously, you have the TLC as well to get involved in those elements. So the Elimination Chamber match, even though obviously we've seen different aspects to all of them and they've all incorporated a few different elements, they all follow a pretty similar formula. Whereas the ladder match, you can do, there's been more differentiations, so you get more excited about those matches.
So
Yeah,
I
if
would
I'm-
be here if it wasn't for the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon rematch at SummerSlam. I would
That's-
be,
you know
like,
what?
sitting here doing this.
I was just going to say, if I say ladder match, what's the one that you think of? And I was going to say, it's the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon SummerSlam one for me. It's so weird. It's like nobody brings that one up.
That's the reason that I'm obsessed with wrestling. So ladder match is big for me.
Oh,
Where he's got the blue trunks.
Yep.
And he does that spot where he falls to the outside and
He tried to grab the belt and the belt wouldn't go.
yep.
And he's like pulling on it with all his strength and it won't go. And just one of the best ladder match to me.
Everybody always mentions the first one, and I always thought that the second one was better.
Well, technically, the first one's not the first one because
Yeah.
the first one
Because
is
Bret
Bret
and
Hart
Shawn.
versus
Bret
Shawn
Hart.
Michaels, yeah. But I mean, I think of like ones which are a bit like go under most people's radars. Like, I think of there was the Raw Fatal 4-Way tag team match, which wasn't really a Fatal 4-Way because Kane didn't have a partner.
That was a TLC technically, but yeah, I got what you're saying.
Yeah, and then there's Tajiri and Eddie Guerrero versus Team Angle from the Judgment Day. I thought that was like a really good one because you have like it was the first time that Tajiri and Guerrero had teamed up in a match and they win the championships. And I thought I was always just a huge Eddie Guerrero fan, so that always sticks out in my mind.
Other ones that go under the radar: Christian and Van Dam on Raw, and then of course you got to say Eddie and Van Dam on Raw as well.
Yeah, and then Jeff Hardy versus The Undertaker as well is a really
Yeah.
good one. Star-making performance for Jeff Hardy.
And for that matter, I just really love the Money in the Bank.
Oh
I
yeah,
know
that's
a lot of people hate it. A lot of people think that it's like gone past its time, but to me, I love the idea that you get like 5 to 10 people that are not necessarily doing anything on a particular event, and you throw them all in, and they fight for a briefcase. And I like the name Money in the Bank. That just like it works to me. I love the idea that you can cash in for the title at any time, and it's not that you're grabbing a title, but it's that you're grabbing a chance for a title and stuff. Like, I really love that concept.
it's another time they struck gold in the more recent years.
The only thing I wish is that they would have kept it a WrestleMania exclusive, because that's such a good match for WrestleMania.
See, I think SummerSlam.
Yeah, it would be good to have like it as a staple of another pay-per-view because WrestleMania doesn't really need a staple match like that. But then, if I was also going to say, like, I remember Tony saying, "What's your favorite ladder match?" My favorite ladder match is also it doesn't all the ones that stand out, I guess, but it's a Shawn Michaels one, but it's not one of the ones that you'd expect. It's the Shawn Michaels
the
Chris
Jericho.
Jericho, yeah, the Jericho one, because that was the culmination of their epic feud from 2008. So
Damn good feud.
I've got to throw this out there. Go ahead. I'll let you finish first.
I was just to say, it's just one of those ladder matches that even though there was some high risk and stuff in that, and obviously a lot of animosity, it wasn't one where people were killing themselves.
Yeah.
And yet it was still better than most other ones.
Jericho is really good at just telling a story instead of just going for the spot fest. But I gotta throw this out there. 2002 TNA, AJ Styles, Jerry Lynn, low key for the X Division title. So I was only just about to turn 9, and we had one of those cable boxes where you get the pay-per-view for free, and I saw this brand TNA, and about 2 weeks into me watching, they did this ladder match, and I was hooked on TNA wrestling from that point forward, and I was an AJ Styles mark ever since. Though that match was amazing.
That was a mistake then, clearly, hanging on for too much longer.
Yeah.
They set the bar too high.
Yeah, they did.
They didn't set the bar. Every time they fucking say bar now, it's pops in my mind.
Yeah.
So ladder match beats out Elimination Chamber. We will touch back on that in a little bit. But the other side of the spectrum was the Iron Man match against the Battle Royal or Royal Rumble. And I looked at that in the semifinals, and I was just like, all right, Battle Royal's going to win. I was not surprised about that one.
Dude, I'm sorry. If you didn't have Royal Rumble attached to this, nobody would have voted for the Battle Royal.
The Battle Royal
If it was Battle Royal versus Iron Man, I think that it still probably would have gone that way. But you put Royal Rumble in there, I mean,
You get the
it's
final
Royal
results.
Rumble.
Yeah, the Royal Rumble is the big thing. I mean, it's the longest annual event that you have going stretching back for WWE. Is it longer or shorter than the Survivor Series one?
It's shorter.
It's shorter, but it's always been more prestigious.
Not too much long difference, I think.
Yeah, but
because first Royal Rumble was 88,
wasn't it? Yeah,
and the first Survivor Series, right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's not as long as that, but it's always felt more prestigious.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in a second, about switching around with that, but Iron Man match to me is one of those things where it's like, wow, this can really settle the score. Royal Rumble to me, this is an event. We don't have the WWE Iron Man pay-per-view, partially because of copyright and stuff like that, but Royal Rumble it could have easily been another Hell in a Cell, where people just look at that and they go, oh, Christ, it's October. I guess we're going to get a Hell in a Cell match. But it became the second biggest pay-per-view of the whole year. And it became the fundamental thing to set up WrestleMania. And now we got 2 of them. That is monumental. If you boiled WWE down to its core elements, and you said, look, we have to really strip down. We can only have a certain amount of pay-per-views. We can only have a certain amount of types of gimmicks. Royal Rumble is on there. You're, at the very least, you're having Royal Rumble setting up WrestleMania, and then, say, a big event like a SummerSlam or something. Even the Survivor Series, I think, it doesn't last as much.
No, the Royal Rumble,
especially not anymore,
Yeah, Royal Rumble's the second biggest pay-per-view in the entire calendar.
Mm-hmm. And they'd like to talk about SummerSlam being the second biggest. Royal Rumble is the second biggest.
To me, because of one match, it's the most important match of the year.
Right. It's one match. SummerSlam might have a better card overall as far as we'll get a Brock Lesnar, he'll fight, and we'll get this person, and match by match, it might be a better overall score. But one single gimmick match makes not just the entirety of the build for the end of December, but the entire of the build for January, and it sets the tone for February, March, and April. One match does 4 or 5 months worth of material. That's crazy. But it's awesome.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And that's why we had our finals. It was the Battle Royal / the Royal Rumble against the ladder match. And now that we're revealing the results, with a score of 30-13, 69.8% of the vote, Battle Royal / Royal Rumble is your winner. That is what you guys have determined is the best gimmick match type of all time. And I don't disagree.
Only because of the Royal Rumble, yeah.
Yeah, the Royal Rumble is the greatest gimmick match of all time.
Yeah. Because if we put it this way, if we go, okay, well now we're going to do the qualifier, Battle Royal / Royal Rumble beat out ladder match. All right, well, which wins between Battle Royal and Royal Rumble? Oh, that's fucking Royal Rumble. It's not even a question.
Yeah,
you know?
You don't even need to do the qualifier for that.
No. Favorite Royal Rumble?
There's a lot of really good ones. Admittedly, out of these like match stipulations, it's one of the ones with a bit of a dodgy track record. Because you have like the highs. Like I'll just throw one out there: the '92 Royal Rumble. Obviously, it's always
'92 was fantastic.
Yeah, it's always heralded as like such a good story. The Ric Flair going the distance, the Bobby Heenan commentary and stuff like that. It all melds together so well. But then you have the 2015 Royal Rumble of the Daniel Bryan getting eliminated so early, the crowd completely turning on the match, and Roman Reigns, and just like Big Show and Kane eliminating everybody towards the end. Just
even being there, I didn't enjoy it as much as I should have.
Yeah, so it's just like it can vary so wildly between like really good ones, really bad ones. Like, I think the Royal Rumble this year was a very good one.
Yeah,
definitely one of the best in recent memory.
I find it easy to watch old Royal Rumbles, even if I don't like the outcome. So for something like, say, the one that Sheamus won, it was him and Jericho, 2014, 2012. A lot of those are blurs to me. Like that 2010 to 2014, I think. That range, like I know Del Rio won one. I know that Sheamus won one. I know
Cena and Batista were the other two.
That there was
2010 itself was a really
2010.
good one.
Edge,
yeah.
And then the Cena and Batista. Cena Batista.
Yeah, 2013 and 2014.
What was the one that Ryback should have won?
2013.
2013? Yeah, so like all that stuff is like confusing to me, but even those, I still find them fun. Like that 40-man Royal Rumble, that's fun as hell.
Mm.
You know, you got like Diesel popping out and Matt Striker going crazy. You got like 07, I thought was a really good Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
where the finals are Michaels, Taker, Randy Orton, and Edge.
Yep.
I think the one Mysterio wins is a very underrated one. And
06?
I think from like going from, I'd say around about 2000, like really between, I'd say from 2000 to 2007, they were all really strong Royal Rumbles, I thought.
I'll throw 08 in there.
08's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, with the Cena return, yeah.
The John Cena return, that got me, like, I did not expect that happening. And I was just kind of like, whoa, holy shit, this is like... Because that was right around the time where I was starting to rewatch it again. I picked it up in, like, the 2006 range or so. And spent the majority of 07 going, like, I don't know if I really want to get, like, fully into this. And... I knew flat out by the 08 Royal Rumble, I knew like the John Cena situation and stuff and all that. And then that was just kind of like, whoa, I forgot how like magical this can be and stuff, you know?
I think if you go from like the 09 to about 2015, 2016 range, it hits a bit of a, like, that's probably the worst period for the Royal Rumble.
I didn't like 09.
Yeah, the Randy Orton one. But yeah, it's had like rises and falls. Like if I was to pick my favorite Royal Rumble, I think the one that sticks out most to my mind is the 2004 one.
04 is Benoit, right?
Yeah, Benoit's one.
I don't remember that one too well. Who won 03? That was Lesnar?
Yeah, Lesnar won in 03.
And 02 was
Triple H.
And 01 was Austin. 01 is a fun one too.
Oh yeah, they bring the weapons in.
Yeah,
That's Kane's elimination record as well. It's 2001.
2000's got some fun stuff to it. 99's got some fun stuff to it.
99
98
sucked. 99 sucked. That was the Vince
99
McMahon
is
Austin
very
one.
silly. It's
That-
McMahon Austin with 28 other people.
Yeah, that's the one where it's a Royal Rumble, but it's not really a Royal Rumble.
Well, 99's... Wait. Which one's the one with the 3 faces of Foley?
That's 98.
Oh, that's 98. Okay, never mind then. Yeah, 99 sucked. Now, 98's fun with that. 97 is a shit show, but it's fun. There's a lot of things wrong with 97.
I mean,
I
if
love
You
the
start
ending.
watching that, though, and it's just like... I mean, you start off with, like, the fucking counter isn't working, and the music's not working, and it's a fake razor, and people are eliminating themselves, and it's like... It's
If
a
you go-
fucking weird one.
if you look from like the 94 to 97 ones, there are a bunch of nobodies in all of those Rumbles.
Well, that's what's good
94,
about the
I don't remember
Rumble.
being too bad, though.
If you look back at all the different Rumbles, it becomes like a census for the roster of that time. they're
Yeah,
fun
you get
to
to
look back
see,
at.
like, that, like, Lex Luger was huge in 94.
Yeah,
And you get, like, 95, you can see that they had nobody.
Mhm.
There is nobody in the 95 Rumble.
Mm.
and that's that's one of the worst ones as well, because that was the one with the 1 minute timers as well.
Mhm.
Obviously, that's the one that Michaels goes coast
But it
to
ends up
coast.
being the most iconic because Sean goes
Yeah.
from one and wins it.
He's the
It's got
one of only two
one of the
people
best-
to start from number 1.
It's got one of the best endings to one of the worst Royal Rumbles.
Yeah,
Probably the worst because that is a real shit show. Out of 30 people, the only memorable ones are Sean, Bulldog, and like Luger was in there.
I'll give you one that's a lot worse than that. The original.
yeah. Me and Tony obviously had to sit back, which you can check out through like,
Yep.
videos. We did the smart commentaries on that one, and yeah, that's a match that hasn't aged well.
That is a terrible match. That Smark Announce Table, if you want to go back and check that out, if you want to sit through watching that thing, go ahead. But it is a brutal
We
one
had-
to rewatch.
I mean, we had to, so you should as well.
Yeah, that's
Um,
quite fair.
But I'm gonna say my favorite Rumble. I thought about this a lot. It was a toss-up. I almost said 92, but I'm gonna go with 07. 07 is probably my most favorite Royal Rumble.
It's up there for me.
That finish, man.
And if you compare also the first Royal Rumble versus the first ladder match, the first ladder match is better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
But you compare ladder match against the Royal Rumble, and I do not blame people for going 30 to 13. It's the Royal Rumble, you know?
yeah, it's so iconic. Even if, like, in my mind, the best ladder match would be easily better than the best Royal Rumble match. It's just you never get so excited for a ladder match as you do for every time the Royal Rumble comes around.
So that means we have the tournaments ended, but I want to look back on some other things here and just give you guys a little bit of an insight into some of the statistics behind it. I'm going to pull Dana Brooke here and just kind of fill you in on numbers. As far as the closest calls go, the winner of that was the Elimination Chamber versus ladder match in round 4. 1 vote difference. 24 votes for ladder match, 23 votes for Elimination Chamber. That is as close as you could get. And I'm kind of curious to see what would have happened if the Elimination Chamber would have gotten 2 more votes, or if they would have gotten 1 and then tied, and then we would have had some kind of scenario where we'd have to do like a triple threat or something like that. Then if we would have had Elimination Chamber versus Royal Rumble, I wonder if it would have gotten more votes against that, or if it would have still been 30 to 13, or if it would have been even more, if it would have been, 35 to whatever, kind of curious. Who knows? Not going to redo the poll or something like that now. That was the closest, though. But we also had some other ones that were 1 vote differences. There was 1 vote difference in 2 different round 2 matches. The standard no DQ and the false count anywhere. Again, they're very, very similar. So maybe the 1 vote was just me. I don't know. Because false count anywhere won that one. And it was also a 1 vote difference between Iron Man match and Last Man Standing. That shocked me.
What would you have gone with, Iron Man?
Yeah, I just flat out went with Iron Man. I was like, oh, fuck Last Man Standing. Those 10 counts are bothersome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with it, but I can understand why some people prefer the Last Man Standing, just because it's usually more, with the Iron Man, it's usually more, obviously, a test of endurance, but for Last Man Standing, that's the one where you see the huge spots to try and kill people and keep them down for a 10 count, so I can understand why people would have that fascination with it.
Yeah, I guess it's more of, do you like weapons or do you like
Wrestling.
technicals?
I think it's
There
also,
was-
what do you see in your mind's eye? You know, like when I'm looking at Last Man Standing, I'm immediately having images of Shawn versus Hunter, Jericho versus Hunter, and those matches are some of my favorites.
That's true. You could always just kind of, if you look back and you see the Last Man Standing as like what I do, where you look at John Cena and you're like, oh my God, just get up. You're fucking going to get to 9 and then you're going to stand up. Like, then it's frustrating.
John Cena ruined a lot of these matches.
Yeah.
He really did. He didn't get a chance to ruin like the cage ones all that much though. And that
No.
was another one of our close ones. It was WarGames only beat Hell in a Cell by 3. So that was pretty close. Not like as close, of course, but close enough that a couple more votes would have gone the other way. Then, you take one away from WarGames, give it to Hell in a Cell, you're already pretty much tied.
I like WarGames, but Hell in a Cell is a much better match throughout history.
Yeah, from 2009 prior, you probably would be fine with the Hell in a Cell over WarGames, but I'd say time just ruined it.
As far as the opposite end of the spectrum, though, when we had the biggest landslides, man, Elimination Chamber versus Steel Cage match.
That's sad.
Woof. 34-1.
I'm going
One
to
person.
again blame the modern day, and just like steel cage matches don't mean anything in the modern day, and that probably hurt it.
Every time you say modern day, I just think you're going to say the modern day Maharaja.
Maharaja.
I thought this was going to go more like, back in my day, we used to have one people in cages. Now they throw
Back
6
in my-
people in there. It's crazy, these kids today.
Back in my day, we didn't have steel cages because we couldn't afford steel because we were using that for the war. We just had wooden cage matches.
We had chicken fence coop.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And we liked it.
We had to make them out of bamboo, and that turned into the Punjabi prison match, and nobody liked that shit.
Yeah, so 97.1% of the vote went to Elimination Chamber there. That was easily the biggest landslide, but that was as far as like the percentage goes. If you go by pure votes on a different kind of scale, 96.4% of the vote went to ladder match in round 1 over the object on a pole or flag match. And the only reason why this is the different kind of side of things is if you look at the numbers versus like the other numbers and that kind of thing. The round 2 match between the WarGames and or not that one. I'm thinking of the other thing. The biggest landslide ones for where did those notes go? The ladder match versus the object on a pole one, the round 1-1. That's what it was. 53-2.
And this, kids, is why WCW lost the war.
Yeah.
You can't say that there's more of like a, I guess, technical kind of landslide than that. There was like, the round 2 ones, it's 97%, so it is more. But it's still just, there wasn't as many votes on it, so that skews it a little bit, Even though 97.1% of the vote went to Elimination Chamber over Steel Cage, that only had 34 votes. 34-1, so 35 votes. But the round 1 thing, that was 55 votes. So 53 over 2. There's more of a discrepancy when it comes to that. And the same thing for another round 1-1, which was 53-2. The Royal Rumble beating the shit out of the Tornado Tag Team.
Poor Tornado.
No
Tag
surprises.
Team.
I mean, a Tornado Tag is just a tag team match where you don't have people stand on the outside of the ring. Like, it's not all that special. And you're facing the thing that won the tournament. So I'm not too shocked about that one. But there are 2 people that voted for that over the Battle Royal and Royal Rumble. And there's 2 people that said, you know what, I don't like ladder matches, but I do like those flag matches and stuff. And it's kind of interesting.
I bet one of them is Drew.
Yeah.
That'd be so funny if that was the case. It's just like, nah, I have some great memories of flags. As far as big shockers go, we kind of touched upon this a little bit like that. I was surprised about the casket match losing to the Buried Alive. I was shocked about Hell in a Cell not beating WarGames a little bit. But really, I think most things just sort of played out the way that it made sense. Was there any other shockers that you guys can think of?
I didn't think I don't say I was shocked by it, but I was surprised slightly by the last man standing beating out the I Quit or submission match. Maybe it's just because the submission match doesn't have a good reputation with it. I think again, it's just the same thing with the qualifiers, but I think if it's just the I Quit versus the last man standing match, you might get a little bit more.
I think last man standing would probably beat it harder, because I think modern day people think I Quit. They're like, all right, John Cena, he's going to do something to his opponent, and they run away screaming I Quit like babies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, John Cena has again ruined that match. But he ruined the last man standing as well. So like, this bracket of the tournament is the matches that John Cena has ruined over time.
And Roman Reigns has ruined the Royal Rumble to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Well, that's the 2018 Smark Madness tournament.
This was not Smark Madness. This was Smark meticulously thought outness.
Yeah, kind of. It sort of was. That was, I think, a pretty solid tournament. I liked it quite a bit. And it made me rethink a little bit of how I want to structure some other tournaments in the future. Maybe starting with the Sexiest Superstars tournament, maybe I'll try to do some kind of like quadrant-based thing on that. Maybe do like, here's the Raw section, and here's the SmackDown section, here's the NXT section, and like I might try to do something like that. I don't know. And
then one for like the commentators and stuff like that, or the
I might kind of separate it that way, and if I can, depends on who gets voted in, and that's also making me change how the qualifiers might go, because I might have to do something where I'll be like, look, all right, these people made it really far in the tournament last year, they're guaranteed, but anybody who got eliminated in the first round last year, maybe they're in the qualifying round, they could potentially get knocked out, something like that. I don't know. So if you have any suggestions what you think that would make better tournaments in the future, drop them in the comments below. Also, tell us what you thought about this tournament. Were there any shocks? Were there any big upset things that you think shouldn't have happened? What were you rooting for? Was the Royal Rumble your winner, or would you have gone with something else? Were you one of those people who really likes flag matches and really wanted that to win? I don't know. Yeah, anything like that. And also as well, because we have a year to figure it out, what should be next year's? Managers? Maybe tag teams? Entrance themes? Probably not. I kind of like the idea of going with the best pay-per-view names, but that could be a little bit boring to some people, so maybe people don't want that to be the case. I don't know. Drop your suggestions in the comments below. We'll figure it out. We got a year. That's it, though, as far as anything I wanted to say. Anything else you guys want to toss out?
Follow me at DudeFelice, pandemoniummania.com, and check the weeklies and check out the Smark Out Moment TeePublic site.
And you can just find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14, and just do that because I've got nothing else to shell at the moment.
Not even any turtles or anything?
Oh, maybe a tortoise, but no tails.
Well, for me, obviously, everybody, if you are following Smark Out Moment, you should be subscribing on YouTube and ringing the bell for notifications for the next things that we're going to be posting. The next one is going to be the hot tags, where we're going to be recapping everything that happens on the Superstar Shakeup. That'll be next Wednesday. We're going to be recording that. And then we have the mailbag for April. So send in your mailbag questions starting now, essentially, so we can start building it up. But keep in mind, if you send in mailbag questions regarding the Superstar Shakeup, we don't know what's happening.
We're going to answer them the day before.
That's going to be problematic. So if you're going to wait until after Tuesday to do that, we're still going to answer it on the Superstar Shakeup section. We're going to just ignore those, and it's just going to give me more crap to have to do. But if you have something more specific to it, like maybe what do you think about this idea of somebody or blah, 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 I don't know, like that, keep that in mind too. Ask us anything else you got in mind though, and we'll see what we can boil it down to. Start sending them in as soon as you can, though. That'll be a lot easier because I'm not sure when we're going to be recording that. And then the weeks to follow, we're going to do our predictions and our post shows for the Greatest Royal Rumble and for Backlash. So plenty of stuff coming your way. You could also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. Buy some t-shirts on TeePublic or Redbubble. Follow Fanboys Anonymous for any of the movie review type stuff on that. Follow me at Tony Mango, at A Mango Tree, at everything else in the world. And I will see you when I see you, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.